I was restocking cryotags when Director Warden Selene Tark told the inspection committee that my entire wing was the leftover strain, and she didn't lower her voice to say it. Baseline, she said, tapping the glass over Vault 9 like she was knocking on a window display. Unmodified. We keep them on for labor and labeling. Sentimental value, mostly. A ripple of dry, chitinous laughter went down the committee line. 6 wardens, robes the color of old copper, and Tenny cantered toward me the way you'd glance at a chair that happened to be standing in your way. I kept tagging cryo canisters. 340 of them in my row alone, each one holding an embryo line the Adenal Continuity Project had spent 2 centuries optimizing, trimming, tightening, shaving off whatever they decided was waste. I didn't say anything. There wasn't anything to say that would have landed different than silence. Calloway. Tark again, closer now, addressing me directly for the first time in 4 years of working under her. Tell the committee what you do here. Inventory, I said. Cryo maintenance. Archifelabeline. She tags the canisters, Tark told the committee, as if I hadn't just said the same thing in fewer words. The optimized lines run themselves. Self-correcting genomes, redundancy bred out, no waste. Hers don't. That's the difference between a finished product and a first draft. One of the committee, a younger warden with unscarred carapace, asked, not unkindly, just curious, why we kept baseline stock archived at all, if it was obsolete. History, Tark said. And labor. Somebody has to carry the canisters. I carried the canister in my hands a little tighter and moved to the next row. The fault hit 11 hours later, while I was off shift, eating reconstituted protein in the staff mess with 2 other baseline archivists, Dom Isha and a quiet kid named Priya who'd been here 8 months. The lights browned out, came back wrong-colored, and the floor hummed in a way floors aren't supposed to hum. Containment breach, the station voice said, flat as a warden. Radiation event, sublevel 4. Vaults 6 through 12. Dom and I were both on our feet before the sentence finished. Sublevel 4 was the optimized lines. My vault, baseline storage, was sublevel 7, 2 decks down and on a separate containment loop, because nobody had bothered to put the leftover strain on the good loop. By the time we got clearance to move, the corridor outside sublevel 4 was full of wardens, and none of them were laughing. Radiation pulse, isotope leak from the cooling manifold, one was saying, antennae flat against a skull, which I'd learn later was the closest thing they had to a wince. Containment held the chamber. It didn't hold the dose. Run diagnostics on every line, Tark said. Now. I wasn't supposed to be in that corridor. I went anyway, because Dom's vault assignment was sublevel 6 and he wasn't going to walk into a contaminated zone alone, and because somebody was going to need someone who could read a damage log without an alien physiology to filter it through. The first diagnostic came back within the hour. Line 4 Delta 9, optimized stock, repair pathway markers flagged for non-essential trimming generations back. The genome had no way to patch the radiation damage. The cells weren't dying from the dose. They were dying because nothing in them knew how to fix what the dose broke. Tark read that result twice. I watched her read it twice. Pull a second sample, she said. Cross-contamination. Sensor fault. It wasn't a sensor fault. By the next diagnostic cycle, 4 more lines had failed the same way, and a 5th was flagged critical. Every one of them was optimized stock, clean, efficient, no redundant repair genes wasting storage space on a contingency 2 centuries of continuity engineers had decided would never come up. I didn't say anything. I'd learned that much. Dom said it for me, quietly, to nobody, while we watched the diagnostic board light up red 1 line at a time. They bred out the spare parts. By the second day, sublevel 4 had lost 61 lines. The warden stopped calling it a sensor fault and started calling it sabotage, which meant a baseline archivist named Priya got pulled in for questioning for 11 hours because she'd badged into the wrong corridor a week earlier looking for a supply cart. They let her go when the diagnostic pattern made it obvious no human hand had touched the manifold. The leak was a manufacturing flaw in housing that had been flagged as low priority 8 years before any of us baseline staff had even been hired. Nobody apologized to Priya. I noticed that. I didn't say anything about that either, not yet. On the 3rd day, Tark came down to sublevel 7 for the first time in the 4 years I'd worked under her. She stood in front of Vault 9, the same way she'd stood in front of it during the inspection, except now she wasn't talking to a committee. She was reading a manifest screen, and her antennae weren't doing the dismissive cant anymore. They were doing the flat thing. Run a full viability scan, she said. Every baseline line. All 340. They're not on the affected loop, I said. They're fine. I know they're fine, she said. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. I ran the scan anyway, because that was the job, leftover strain or not. 340 lines, every repair pathway intact, every piece of waste the optimization program had spent 2 centuries trimming out of everyone else still sitting there in our genome, unused, unbothered, doing absolutely nothing useful right up until the moment something broke that needed fixing. The final tally came in on the 5th day. 94 optimized lines lost out of the 412 in sublevel 4, the entire adenal continuity project's premium archive, the lines TARC had called the finished product, gutted by a radiation dose that the baseline genome 2 decks down would have shrugged off without anyone noticing there'd been an incident at all. TARC called me into her office. Not the inspection floor. Her office, which I had never once been inside. She didn't sit me down or offer me anything. She just turned the manifest screen toward me so I could see the new directive, drafted that morning, stamped with the continuity seal. We are revising the archive classification, she said. Vault 9 is being redesignated primary reserve stock. What's happening to the optimized lines? Secondary, she said, like the word cost her something to produce. Pending review of the trimming protocol. I looked at the screen for a second. 340 canisters, the one she'd called sentimental value, the ones that were apparently good for nothing but carrying and labeling, now sitting at the top of a classification list 2 centuries in the making. You'll need more staff on 9, she said, given the reclassification. I know how to carry a canister, I said. Same as before. She didn't laugh this time. Nobody in that office laughed at all. I went back down to sublevel 7 and finished tagging the row I'd started the day of the inspection. The cryotags still read the same thing they'd always read, baseline, unmodified, archive code 09, except now somebody had stapled a new classification sticker over the old one, and the new sticker was the kind they usually saved for things worth protecting. I peeled the corner of it back to make sure the old one was still under there. It was. I left it.